I owe the state $6.
Oh, that's really good news. Really good news.
Yeah. So we're back. It's been
We're
forever. Like
back. We were
it's been
missing
3
each
weeks since
other
we've
and
been live.
missing you. I hope you missed
Yeah.
us and enjoyed the replays. And now we're back talking about the crap that comes up when you're dating. This is Let's Talk About Dating on WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network Radio, TV, and podcast. #1 Internet Singles Talk Network with Christine Baumgartner and Barry Selby. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Christine. We're back. It's good to be here.
I know. It's very nice to be back. And boy, we had a couple weeks to think about this subject. And I was thinking about, I think and I love the picture that our lovely producer Cece put up about the guy coming out of the phone.
I know, it's so perfect. She always does these perfect
Because-
pictures we use for the screen, the show images.
Oh.
It's great.
Yep, because I think most people would think, the scammers and the people that just want hookups and people that sometimes accidentally don't say the right thing. And you and I will certainly address that. And as well, we are going to address about the crap that comes up from the inside.
Exactly.
From the other side of the phone.
Right.
The person holding the phone sometimes has some crap come up for them too. Because, boy, there's so many things that dating touches on in our insides, emotionally and mentally, from our childhood and from past dating experiences. And I most of the time now I just go, oh, good, there's another lesson. But before I would go, gosh, I thought I'd already talked about that. I already addressed that. Oh, it's all just them. We've all been down that road, huh?
So the way you say it touches on, I think it's more like putting lemon juice in a cut. It's a lot more painful than just touching on it. It's like, this is real painful sometimes.
Yeah. Poking at the wound. Much more accurate, huh?
Even though we're laughing about it, we know the pain is like. We've been through it ourselves, so we can speak that from experience.
I think that's one of the things that you've said it too, that I find that when people go, oh, you really get it. Well, yeah, because I've done this. I've done all that. I've mentioned before I should do that 12-step program when the part where they say you need to make amends, because I have lots of men I would go apologize for not knowing better with the things I said and the things I did that were really pretty mean because I didn't know better.
Yeah. I've actually shared on a couple of podcasts recently. I've had quite a few podcast interviews recently. And one of them, actually two of them I think I shared, and on Clubhouse too, I've shared about how my last bad breakup that I went through, I really want to send her a thank you note. I mean, she broke up with me. She kicked me out. She made my life misery. But I want to thank her for all the stuff she gave, because the gift she gave me, she didn't realize she gave me. Yeah. And where I've been because of that, I mean, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if it wasn't for that painful breakup. Mm-hmm. So as much as it was not fun, I could actually go back and thank her, and she'd probably go, what the hell are you thanking me for?
Yeah. So that is certainly one of the things that we talk about a lot on this program are, what are the benefits? What's the upside? What did you learn that could truly make your life better next time? Better, absolutely. Period. Not even in a relationship, just with your relationship with yourself, and certainly your relationships with other people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So I thought we could start with the outside crap that everybody knows about, and we'll talk about it because we can't not.
Mm-hmm. And all those dating terms as well.
Yeah. So when you're dating, it's part of the world. I mean, you could, anywhere in the world, you go to the grocery store, you're driving around, there's rude people. Not a lot, and depending on where you are and the time of year and the weather, they're going to be rude.
Yeah.
And the trick is not to take it personally. Can you not take it personally?
Absolutely.
Boy, I took everything personally. When 35 was really my turning point in my life, when I stopped doing a lot of the things that were so bad for me, and that was one of them. Everything was my fault. I caused everything in the world. It was a terrible burden. It really was.
Well, and also, just to be transparent, I notice now when I start to take things personally, it's like it still happens. That's not immune to it. However, there's a recognition that I have of it's almost like a trip signal, like a signal goes off, like oh, hello, I'm getting triggered. That must be something I'm missing. Yes. So the good news is that when you get better at this, what happens is the situation may happen, And rather just be totally immune to it and be like just like I'm floating free of everything, which would be nice, but not really functional. It's more about you go, oh, that one again. How do I respond this time? So you can shift it, and to be able to shift it intentionally and consciously is probably the most powerful experience you have when you recognize that you're no longer a victim of it. Because that's the other part, is that oftentimes we feel like we have no control over what happens. Like this thing happens, I'm upset, and it happened again, damn it, and I can't stop it. Like, well, you can. And when you learn how to manage it, that power of being able to go, you know what, I'm taking this and putting it over there internally is such a powerful place to be. I mean, it's fully like self-supportive and self-empowered. It's amazing. So and everybody can get there.
And they really can. I mean, that's the thing that you and I are here to keep shouting from the rooftops. No matter what is sticking you now, what's causing you angst, which is keeping you from feeling your most best full living self, with or without a relationship. I mean, it's best to figure out how to do that before you're in a relationship.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And
so
then
some of the,
if you're looking for a relationship, then you're going to be even better when you get there.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some of the external ones, and particularly some of the dating terminology that's become very prevalent the last few years. Like ghosting, breadcrumbing, boomeranging. I mean, like there's so many terms, it's ridiculous. But ghosting is the most common one, basically, when especially the dating apps, because dating apps have this wonderful thing that you can be very remote from somebody, even when you're next door. So you don't have like their phone number or their actual number you can text or call them on. You have to go through the app. And when you're reaching out to somebody and they seem to have just disappeared, they'd be like, where they've gone. And the thing is, what happens is we get upset or take it personally. It's like, what happened? They dropped the ball. They're not responding. What's wrong with me, or what's wrong with them, or what did I say, or what did they do? All this stuff comes up. And just to see that ghosting oftentimes is the person has moved on without realizing they didn't close the door behind them. And it's the thing. In some ways, that's what it is. It's about that sort of, okay, you left this place, close the door, move on to the next one, open the door to the next one. But there are a lot of people out there who have a lot of open doors behind them. They didn't close the doors behind them. And that's just simply their lack of, it's lack of manners, to be honest. And 90% of the time, it isn't about you anyway. It's their lack of awareness, arrogance, egocentric behavior, or just simply the fact they don't have the manners to know they should say goodbye or say, sorry, I'm not interested. And they even may be afraid of the rejection they might feel by saying it to you, which is backwards.
Or get yelled at.
Right, yeah. And to be honest, I've been on the receiving end of that sometimes, so I understand the feeling. But even so, it's like I do my best, and I'm not perfect again, but I do my best to to reach out and say, look, I'm not feeling this is going to go anywhere, but thank you for the experience we've had so far. And I wish you well in your dating life, or something like that. But the ghosters don't do that.
No.
They just poof.
Yes. And it's interesting that I love the visual that you gave about the door, because the word that people use is, I want closure.
Right. Yes.
I want to feel closure, which is perfect to use the door analogy to say, okay, they're moving on, and now I know I can and need to move on. Because if somebody hasn't said goodbye, you're still waiting and wondering, and are they going to come back?
Yeah.
And should I spread my attention someplace else? It's hard. It's very hard.
And it's funny we said that, but I got a visual of something happened a couple of years ago when I was working at my spirit center, greeting and being in the.
Oh, are you guys there? I'm
yes,
sorry,
because
it looked like we had gotten kicked off. So when I had come back on, it looked like you guys
we were in the middle of the show. We're going fine.
Sorry, I do apologize. I'm going down.
This is our wonderful producer, Cece.
Cece.
But it looked like you guys had been kicked off, and I don't know what happened. So it was only on my end. So I guess it was a joke. Are you guys doing practical jokes on me now?
No.
We didn't even have to do that, I don't think.
Oh, you terrified me. Okay, I'm going down. All right, bye.
Okay. All right. Back to the show. Where were we? Oh, yes. So anyway,
look at the good closure she did, right? She didn't just leave us hanging.
There you go. Demonstration. Perfectly done.
No ghosting. We planned it that way.
We did? Oh, yes, we did. Yeah. So no, the thing I'm noticing, the thing about the door closing piece was where at the spiritual center I go to, this is a couple years ago during winter, and before the pandemic, of course. And we had doors that would have a bad habit of sticking when people left, and the outside doors would let the cold air in. And I'd be hanging out in the lobby, not in a coat because it was warm in the lobby. And so I'd start getting testy, and I start cracking up at myself, and I go like up behind them and close the door behind them, like, slam the door closed to try and make it loud enough that they would hear it, even though they're too far away to hear me close the door behind them.
Yeah.
So I noticed it's like, the thing about this stuff for me is just I watch myself get upset about something, get like, filled up. And then I just burst out laughing, going, am I doing this again? And so I have fun with it now. But that's the thing, is that sense of having to be the one closing the door behind them, leaving you, so to speak, is something that it may sound like, oh, it's like, damn, I got to do that again. Like it's the weight and the pressure and the fact you got to take care of them, but take care of yourself. First of all, by closing that door, you take care of yourself because you are having closure for yourself so you can move on. But secondly, you can make a game out of it if you want to. It's not, truth, effort-wise, it's not much effort. It's purely just shifting of perception in that and things. You're not closing a physical door like I was, but you are experiencing that sense of closure that you need. Because the thing is, back to the codependent conversation for a second, when you are asking someone else to have closure and you're not willing to close it yourself, you're putting the pressure on them to fix you, and you're feeling upset until they do it. So you're not free anyway. So why not be the one to take charge of your own freedom and say, you know what? I'm closing this off. We're done. And move on.
Being proactive about your own life in every area.
Yeah.
Including dating.
Absolutely.
Including interpersonal relationships. Oh, yeah. Conscious dating. It's such an important thing. So one of the other things that people complain about a lot is that crap. When somebody gets really sexual and wants, sexual pictures and starts making, sexual conversations and innuendos right away off the bat.
Yeah.
And we get all upset. And how can they treat me that way? Who do they think I am? They don't know you.
Right.
They have no idea who you are. This is just who they are.
Yes.
And as Maya Angelou said, when they show you who they are, please believe them. So
yes.
That's another time when you don't take this personally. They're just they're trolls and they're trolling. They're just looking for somebody who will respond, because there are some people that will send them pictures because they're lonely or desperate, or they want to play too. It could be this is what we do. Great. Do it with each other so that you're not paying attention to the other people that don't want it, right? That's what I always said.
And on that thing, it's also sometimes it's their dysfunction because they don't understand that relationships are not just sex.
Yes.
So that goes on too. So, you don't want to psychologically analyze these people, but, and they have their own stuff. And as you said, it's not about you, it's about them because they don't know you.
So if that's all they want, don't pay any attention to them. If you've read their profile and they seem like they might be an interesting person, then you can say, gosh, that makes me really uncomfortable. And could we start out talking about what we like to do for sports or what kind of books we've read, and then we can get to the sex part later and see what they do, because it might be they'll go, oh, okay, I've met a couple people that wanted to come on really strong and you're not like that, but I'd like to get to know you. So, okay, I'll back off. That's also a possibility. So if you're not getting all emotional, because then we can't think straight, if you just go, let me check this out and give them the benefit of the doubt once, and see how they respond once. Because if they just are back on sex and they're just pushy, then you're like, well, yeah, it's not a match. Bye.
Right.
But it's when you get so upset about it. And this is somebody they might be a fine person, but they're nothing to you. So when they're nothing to you, it's not appropriate to let them have this big of an effect on your emotions. And that is really hard for people to get.
It's amazing how we do that. Is we put so much importance on somebody who's interacted with us for 10 minutes.
Yes.
What?
Yes. All the time.
Right.
It happens all the time. We had this great conversation, texting for an hour. I think I see a future. No. No. Yeah, that's when that door again, if you just throw it open to anybody. I mean, don't you want to find out a little bit about a person before you're going to let them walk in your literal house, your literal heart.
Right.
Just get to know them. Keep them out here for a while. Yeah.
I mean, I think what we're going to start realizing as we go through these things about the external stuff is that 99% of these things are about us taking things personally when it's not even our place to take it personally. We have the power and domain to manage our own feelings, independent of what other people say or do, or don't do or don't say. So if they ghost us, say la vie. That's their choice, not ours. If they come on sexually too strong, that's not about us, it's about them. So when we start getting triggered and upset, which we'll get to more later on the show as well, of other areas, that's indication that we're invested in somebody else approving of us, or somebody else accepting us, or somebody else liking us, when perhaps we're not doing it for ourselves.
Yeah, we don't have a good enough foundation of, well, this is who I really am, and this is what I really need and want, and this is what makes me feel comfortable and happy. And they're not doing it yet. So let's see, can they? And if they can't, then they don't get to be part of my life. And it is empowering. The first time I get a woman to do that, they're like, ooh, I felt so much better. I know, because you felt like crap before, haha. But it's the truth. It makes us feel very crappy. It makes us feel worse. It pulls the rug out from underneath whatever self-confidence or self-esteem we were already trying to build up, which is why you and I talk about how you have to do this internal work before you get out there in the world of all these strangers. I know. I know for me, there were times when I'd go, there's this really great thing I just heard. And really, I'd heard it 4,012 times, but it was the 13th time I was like, oh, I get it now. So that's why we say it over and over. Not that you're not smart and not paying attention, but sometimes I know for me, I've had to hear it again and again. And maybe some circumstances just come up in your life, maybe with the holidays, or you finally put yourself out there online dating and this kind of stuff is happening, that you're like, oh, I'm ready to hear this. I could make this less hard. I could make it more easy. That's why we say it over and over. I think it's important to repeat this part that is such a foundation for having a happier life and doing dating much more successfully.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
For me, this conversation, it does tend to come back to the same sort of teachings all the time, because they work. And secondly, because there's so many ways that people don't get who they really are. And so we're like going, well, it starts from over here. It starts from over here. It's over here. We still come to the same place, because that's the reality of what we're teaching. Because when you get this, everything else gets easier.
Oh. I sure have learned that, boy. My life was so hard, really so much harder when I didn't know this.
Right.
And then when I got it, it was so much easier. And what is really interesting, when you said that you can feel it coming up, you can feel the feeling and go, oh, that's familiar. Oh, I'm taking this personally. Oh, maybe I need to get a little bit more information about this person. It's very helpful. Yeah, just a little bit. It was funny. I just spent the week for Thanksgiving in Virginia with other people, but an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I learned, it took a couple times, oh, they're at each other because it's snack time, but they don't know they're hungry. They just know this other person, this sibling, is on their last nerve. And I now learned from the mom, go put a snack on the table and act like they're 3. Oh, honey, this is hard. I know. Come sit down and eat something. Oh, I know he's driving you crazy. Come sit down and eat something. And then life gets so much better.
If you just do that with adults, it'd be so much easier.
I was thinking the same thing, because there's times I go, oh, hun, you haven't had enough sleep. Oh, hun, you might need a snack. I found that for me too. It was really helpful.
I love that, because the reality is that we as adults, if only we're more self-aware, so we notice when we're getting bent out of shape at something, it's because we didn't nap, didn't drink enough water, didn't have a snack, or didn't just feel, or just didn't take care of ourselves. So we just like react to everything else. And so it's like, you need to be remember, you're like a 3-year-old, and you have to have your inner adult going, have a snack, dear, you'll be fine.
it brought it so, like this big light bulb went off over my head. I go, that's what I have to do for me a lot of the time.
Right.
I know. It was very funny. I just kept learning all these lessons from this 8-year-old and this 12-year-old. It was just constantly so much fun to go, yeah, this is me. This is my clients. It's so fun.
It's, I mean, we all carry our inner child within us, or inner children. Yeah. So this is not something you leave behind necessarily when you become an adult. Because
no. Sadly. Well, and that's the thing, because people say, well, then do I get rid of that part of me? No, because that's the fun, juicy, sexy, great. Oh my gosh, isn't this the best? And it's so exciting. And oh yeah, I want to do that. You just have to know that there's an adult in residence that's going, okay, hon, you need a little more sleep. Okay, hon, let's get you a snack so that you can go back to being your happy, cheerful self again.
Well, that's the yeah, I mean, because the thing is, it is the sense that people don't necessarily realize is that we can, in fact, parent ourselves. Mm-hmm. We can parent our own selves, and oftentimes, I mean, if you didn't have a good model when you're being raised, then maybe you need to take some classes or read a book or study from some videos to learn how to be your best parent of your own inner self, because there is an inner child there. As you said, we don't leave them behind. No. They're within us all the time. Although we may ignore them or suppress them or deny them, the truth is they're in them. They're in us. So why not include them and ideally enroll them in what we're doing? Because then they bring all the energy with them, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's another teaching. I know we'll get path, but yeah, that's such a key piece too.
Well, it certainly brings, I think it exacerbates this crap subject. Absolutely. From the outside influence as well as our inside reactions and what we could do about it. I think that little kid that jumps in the driver's seat of our car and is, going to potentially, I don't want my 12-year-old great niece driving my car. As capable as she is at lots of things, I have a feeling we'd run into the wall. So that's when I have to say, okay, now the adult needs to be in charge again. And it was such a learning curve to figure out the balance of that. And I found that the effect of outside people on me generally was so much less the more balance I got.
Right.
So yes, crap's going to come up. We're not saying we can stop that. There's no way to stop it. It's how do you change your reaction so it's easier on you and more healthy, less draining. And you go, oh, I actually even learned something.
Right.
I didn't learn that I was a worse person. I learned how to handle it better so that I feel more capable next time. Isn't that a nice way to view it?
Absolutely.
Okay, bring on the crap, because I'm going to learn more of how to be a better person. Isn't that an interesting thing to ask for?
That's a philosophy for sure, yes.
Yeah.
Well, the one shift I would say, because you mentioned that one word is one of my things I like to talk about, is how we really show our maturity when we move from reaction to response.
Yeah.
Because reaction basically is without any conscious thought or chance to stop and breathe. We just like something happens, you go bang, we react.
Yeah.
Oftentimes not to the best result. More crap shows up.
That's when we're being free again.
Exactly. But when we're also in response mode, that when we can consider what happened, choose how we want to give back, and then respond accordingly, which is a much more thoughtful and ideally more compassionate place of being. And that's why we're reducing the crap that we have in dating and everything else, because in a way, it's like you want to have the playfulness of the younger self involved in dating, because why not make dating fun and have fun with it? Mm-hmm. At the same time, you don't want to have the 5-year-old run the show of the whole dating experience. So having that balance, as you said, like having the child and the adult inside working together and working in harmony is where that's where it's ideal. I mean, doing that alone would change your dating paradigm if you figure that part out.
Yes. Oh, which sounds, when I first bring it up to people, they'll go, I can't do that. I can't do that.
Right.
It doesn't make sense, or it's too hard, or it's so not me. I love that answer. So I say, well, okay, then let's find the benefit of staying the same. Tell me all the benefits about staying the same way. I love asking that question.
Yeah,
because
it's a very short list.
Very short and very helpful if they really can come up with, well, it's too scary to do something different, or I think I'll be bad or stupid if I try something different. Those are really valid reasons and good to acknowledge them. And then let's look at, is that really the truth? Don't I sound like Byron Katie? Is that really the truth? Because it's not really the truth. It's the truth right now, but it's not the truth forever, because you really are going to learn it. And anything you learn and you practice, you get better at. So one of the things that came up with the 8-year-old and the 12-year-old is, when the things were starting to get really bad, I said, you know what I do sometimes? I said, you pretend that somebody's holding out a fresh baked chocolate chip cookie. And you have to stop and stare at the cookie. And then you take a breath to smell the cookie. Doesn't it smell good? You go, and then you're like, oh, but it's really hot, so I can't eat it yet, so I have to blow on it. And I go, so do that. And they both were doing it on either sides of me. And they were like, oh, they started feeling a little calmer. I said, it's only because Auntie Chrissy learned to do this for herself that I can teach it. But just if you could take a moment, use the cookie analogy, something else, take a moment, truly take a breath to go, is this really the best reaction? Is this really what they could have meant? Could they have meant something different? Mm-hmm. No, they don't know me. They don't know me. I mean, that's the part where you have to go, do they know you enough for you to believe that this is their true reaction if they knew you as a person? No. So, because you can't be rational when you're and you're being 3 and on the floor and having a tantrum. You have to get to this calm, just a minute, just a little calm to go, oh, it's not what I was thinking. That's not the reality. I think that's really a lot of the conscious part, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, just having to respond, because one thing you said that sort of was the understanding that it doesn't take much, surprisingly, to change.
No.
The level of power we get back, because when you start to recognize how many times we've been reactive and have basically acted before we thought in a bad way. I mean, sometimes you act romantically better when you don't think. That's a different story. But we react something and we just chew the person's head off, or we argue, or we shut the door, or we walk away, whatever that is. If we take a breath and then maybe do the same thing intentionally, first of all, the power's back inside of us instead of external. But the other part is when we start to take the breath and we recognize we can make a different choice, we start to realize that all that energy out there doesn't live out there anymore. It comes back in here again. Mm-hmm. So we get empowered back.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the idea of the smelling the hot chocolate chip cookie. This is a great visual analogy for me too. So I love using that one. So thank you for that.
You're so welcome, because everybody knows what that smells like. You can conjure it up in your brain. So Thank you. You're so welcome. Thank you for the compliment, because I was thrilled when I learned it. It's probably been 10 years ago, and I have used it a lot.
Right.
So we've talked a lot of the outside influences, the crap part of dating, and now we'll talk about the inside parts as soon as we get back from these lovely commercials. We'll be right back.
I think we're coming back.
Maybe we broke too fast for her, huh?
I trust you. She was ready.
I thought so.
It's a fun show today. It's been away for 3 weeks.
Oh, she lost the commercials. We're talking some more. Well, geez, we don't have to worry about us finding stuff to talk about. We're always complaining we don't get to talk long enough, huh?
So shifting gears, welcome back to the second half of the show with no breaking.
We're talking about the crap that comes up when you're dating, and we talked about all the external things that feel crappy when you're dating.
We talked about it a little bit. There's a lot more. There's a lot more besides, but they definitely talk about the main keys to remember.
Yeah, because there's lots of things that feel crappy about dating for sure.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But we covered a lot of the big ones.
And there's also a lot of good stuff happens with dating, else we wouldn't do it. So it's not just about the crap.
Yes, because we're looking for love. We want to be in a committed relationship, and our essence is to help that process feel fun. It is a means to an end. You do need to date in order to meet somebody. You have to go out with them a few times and have conversations with them to get to know each other, to see if you are a match and that you have things in common that would feel like something you want to build a future on. And if you could have fun while you're doing it, then so much the better. And that's really what we try to bring to this, is how can you still have fun while you're going through this process?
So just to say another way, the title of this show is not the all and be all and end all of dating. Just there's a certain part of dating that can be crappy, both externally and internally. But the recognition that dating ideally is a joyful experience that gets you what you want, lots of love and fun and connection and intimacy and honesty and all these wonderful things. But if it ain't that, this might be what's in the way. So we want to make sure we cover it so you can get through this and not deal with continual crap in your dating experience.
Yes. Such a good point, Barry. Because don't you have a lot of people say, it's so much work, it's too much work, I'm giving
dating
up.
Sucks. Yeah.
Yes, dating sucks. Yeah, boy, people say that a lot.
Yeah.
So this might be the reason you're feeling that way, that your reaction to external things that are happening, that we've now talked a little bit about how you might look at it differently and react a little differently. And now the things that feel crappy inside of you that might be causing the crappy outside stuff to happen. Because we like thinking we're in control until, oh my gosh, it might be my responsibility. But the best part of that I discovered was I could do something about that.
It's funny because so many people are so attached to blaming other people so they can feel superior. Which is like that's what you want to bring to dating. Okay, that's fine. Anyway, no judgment of their choices. But the thing is, some people are caught up in the paradigm of wanting to blame. But as you said, it's like when you recognize that you have the power to change it, that's real power. You know, the power to judge somebody else, that might make you feel good for a few minutes. But truth is, to quote an old quote about that basically when you're dealing with judging other people, basically resentment, you're taking poison and expecting the other person to die. So you're physically suffering from the judgment you're placing on somebody else. They're oblivious to it. There's really no point in doing that. However, when you take back control, excuse me, and can see how you can change the way you respond to something and maybe change the direction you move in, that power you have to do that is incredibly rewarding and uplifting as well.
So dating is work.
Yes.
It can be enjoyable work. It can be hard work, depending on the tools you have, your attitude, what you perceive is happening when you're putting yourself out there. Because I love what I do for work. You love what you do for work.
Yes,
indeed. You can love the work part. That's the part that if you look at the different way of looking at work, then dating is work. You know, you need to think about it. You need to do a profile. You need to communicate with people. You need to think about, what is it I really want to talk about? What do I need to find out about them? It's sort of like a job when you're applying for a job.
Right.
But if you like it, if you feel good about it, if you feel empowered, if you feel like you have really good tools, then it's really fun work.
It is. And I mean, well, let me back up a second, because the thing is, the view upon dating, whereas dating apps, dating sites, or just going dates in the world, is what is your goal? If your goal is to have an amazing relationship, isn't it worth putting a little work in to get there? If you're just dating to have dates, then isn't it a lot worth having the fun to get to the dates and stuff? So, I mean, either way, it can be good to do. It's just that when you find the crap in the middle of it, you step in the crap, so to speak. That can feel a little bit less than wonderful. And so some of the piece we're going to get to, which we talk about now, is the stuff that comes up for us when we're dating. Because one of the challenges of dating, especially when you start getting beyond the first date and second date, you start to meet somebody, is a lot of the history starts to run in the tapes in the background. Those little tapes that you basically recorded over the years in past relationships, the expectations, the past pains, the past sufferings, the past upsets, the past wounding, all those things tend to surface once you're back in the saddle again, so to speak, back when you're back in that relationship. That crap, which is unfortunately present for many people, is only because they didn't heal the crap in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to put it simply. But the recognition of, and this is one of the things that I did many times in my relationship history, is why I talk about it so much, is that I would just think about the fact that relationship didn't work, so I'll find somebody else and it'll be different. But it wasn't. Same thing again, same experience, same pattern, same breakup. It's like, no, it's not me, it's them. Find somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Find somebody else. Eventually you start to let, hopefully people who are watching this will get this, because we talked about it quite a bit, that eventually you're going to go, different people, same result. Maybe it's me, not them. Maybe you look in the mirror instead of looking at them going, they're wrong. Mm-hmm. Just a thought that perhaps the possibility of freedom is actually in here in the first place.
You and I've talked about it so much that we went through that epiphany individually in our personal lives that, oh, it is me. And it's normal to go, ew, wow, what kind of person's like that? And oh, am I broken? And who's going to ever want somebody like that? But then you get to say, oh, I could do something about that. Don't you think so, Gigi? She does.
Yes, she does.
That when you say, I want different results and I can do something about it, that I've been bringing in, being attracted to these results that weren't working for me, I can now make different choices and have new, better results for me. And both of us have talked about what truly feels sort of immediate, the shift.
Right.
That different people start showing up in your lives. It's like so amazing. It really is. I know.
It's one of those side effects of making the change, is that people around you change too. How does that happen? I wonder.
How does that happen? Yeah, you don't have to change the people. New people who are different will show up.
Yeah.
But also, it's funny, I used to say central casting would send people that just look different, but they all have the same part to play. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say also part is that the people who are around you will start to change as well. They'll either fall away or they'll shift.
Yes.
It's magic.
It is magic. It feels magic.
Yeah.
And I love teaching it and going, just trust, just try it. If it doesn't work, we'll come. I trust I have other plans. And they always come back going, oh, it's different. I go, I know. You're now a believer. It's so cool.
It is.
So if we go back to you take everything personally, well, who helped you feel that way when you were little? That's always a really good place to start. It's been a really good place for me to start, for me and for my clients. Whose voice is that? Because we aren't born with that voice in our head that's telling us that we're no good or not worthy or not a good person. So whose voice is that? And then to just go back and address it and say, is that really true? Is that really who I am? Not really. And for whatever reason, they had their stuff that put that on you, that you can now take it off, like clothing that doesn't fit anymore. And the process of doing that, it's work. So we're going to go back to work again. And so worth it. So worth looking internally because that's not the only fix, but that is certainly a really helpful fix of whose voice is that? To just ask yourself that question, because you can certainly hear your mom or your dad or a grandparent or a neighbor or somebody that when you were pretty small, before you had filtering, explained to you very clearly, this is what's wrong with you and you should be taking, I'm unhappy and it's all your fault. That happens a lot to little kids.
Unfortunately, yes. And as much as that happens, sitting there judging and blaming those people isn't going to solve anything.
No.
So the reality of that is that when you become aware that voice in your head is not yours, it's yours repeating what they said, because that's the other part is, yes, people maybe the adults around, parents, grandparents, etc., said to you when you were very young negative things about you. The funny thing is, or the unfortunate thing is, as an adult, it may be our own voice saying the same thing now because we just took it over without even questioning what it was.
Yes.
So what this point is about is recognizing that, first of all, you can question those tapes, those recordings, those voices that said those things back then. Because 99.9% of them, if they're negative, are wrong. Just to say it carte blanche, because that's the way it is.
Yeah.
There might be some corrective feedback in there. Maybe some things you could do differently, or maybe there were things when you were a kid that maybe you were clumsy, but as an adult, you're not. So why are you still thinking you're clumsy because you were told when you were 3 years old? So be very diligent, but also be very, very direct about to confront those voices, to actually ask those voices inside, like, where do they come from? And are they even valid anymore? Because again, most of the time, if not all the time, they have no validity anymore.
Yes. And those people who said that to us, most of the time, I learned they just were doing the best they knew how. It was how they were raised. It's the messages they got. They didn't know how to raise children any other way because that had been their example. So not to chastise them at all. I like that you brought that up. That's not the point of this. The point of it is to just look and say, is that the truth today? Even if it might have been partly true or even all the way true then. That was another thing about the 12-year-old. She's 5'7". And she goes, Auntie Chrissy, sometimes I trip. And the other day she dropped her cello. It only put it out of tune. It didn't break it at all. But I said, I remember I got tall really fast and then I stopped. I said, you're just trying to figure out how to deal with these long legs, such long legs and these long arms. And they're just sort of everywhere. And they weren't that way just even a couple months ago, that you keep growing. I said, you're growing into yourself. And she's like, oh, I never looked at it like that. I said, sometimes it's really hard to be 12. It's just hard to be 12. Especially with an 8-year-old brother. I mean, really, there's times it's hard.
Yeah.
So this is what you're doing. You're going to now grow into something new, and you'll have growing pains and growing clumsiness. So that's the other thing, because then you're going to use it as justification. Well, see, I'm not good at this. Just new. Trust me, it's just new. So I wanted to make a point of that. Give it as another reason to give yourself a hard time.
No, definitely. And I would strongly suggest that everybody should consider that anything below the age of 18 was all trial and error.
Yes. Yes. Oh my God.
It's like, let it all go. It's okay. All those mistakes, the clumsiness, the errors, the wrong things that were said, all the stuff we didn't do well before the age of 18. That's a wash. It's like, that just simply happened. Yeah. It's like,
that's
it's okay.
Why they don't put it in public records, right? That's why they seal them, because we're not responsible.
No, but yeah. As an adult, there's some deference about that, but recognition of the fact that we are learning. I mean, we're still learning as adults, so be gentle as well.
Hopefully.
Well, the thing is, those dating mistakes we make in those relationships, I know for myself, I mean, a lot of stuff in my book and in my coaching comes from mistakes I made that ideally I don't make anymore. Yeah. But if I do make them again, I don't judge and curse about it. It's like, oh, okay, now I'm familiar with this. I know how to fix it now.
Yes.
And that's the truth, is that 90% of the time, I use the percentage arbitrarily, but a large amount of the time, we will tend to do things that aren't perfect, which is okay, first of all. But secondly, we can then go, oh, okay, that's interesting. I can change that.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a game in a way. You can play with this, because it becomes lighter when you're not putting as much pressure on yourself to be perfect every single time. And in dating especially, and it's interesting how we do this. That's why I have this conversation with somebody recently about the sense of putting on such a perfect presentation at the first date. Yeah. Everything's got to be just perfect, so presentable, so they'll fall in love with me. But 6 months down the road, you'll be eating pizza with your hands stuck down your sweatpants and burping. So, why not just be authentic from the beginning? Not saying you should be slouch from the beginning,
no,
but don't try so hard.
Yeah,
be honest, be real. Yes, present yourself nicely, but don't go overboard and get so fixated on being perfect that when you don't, you start judging the crap out of yourself.
Yes. And my big thing along that vein is I want to feel really comfortable sitting there. And I used to think it was their job. And I learned it made a lot more sense for me to figure out how to make myself. How come he's not making me feel more comfortable?
I wonder.
Oh, that's one of the people I have to go apologize to, because it was just so strange that I believe that could have passed a lie detector test. That it's our responsibility. People go, how do you know all this stuff? Because I did it all.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
So,
I got a few of those.
How do you get yourself feeling comfortable? What do I need to do ahead of time before I go meet that person for the first time so that I know that I feel comfortable? And it's amazing how much better, no matter what happens after, I feel while I'm there because I've done the preparation on my own.
The power is in your hands.
It really is. That's what we keep saying through this whole talk today.
Yes.
Take the power back. Stop giving it to somebody who hasn't earned it. They might someday, but they don't now. They should have no power over your feelings. None.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Dorothy that said about the powers within you all along, something like that.
Glinda, yes, Glinda, the good witch, said, you've always had the power to go home when she had the shoes.
Right.
I think that's a really important visual for us to remember. We always have the power to how comfortable we feel. Because let's say it is not a good outcome on your date. You can get up and walk out the door. You can have the waitress call somebody. That you can have the manager walk you to your car. The manager can come talk to the guy. I mean, you really do have that power. And if we don't honor that, that's when we get ourselves in trouble.
Oh, yeah. That's one reason why I always recommend, and I know we're going to wrap this show up in a second, about having that date where you meet in public somewhere separate, so you drive yourself there, especially the first few dates. Is you take care of yourself, the women especially, is you drive yourself to the date, you do it somewhere centrally neutral where you're not on each other's turf, so to speak, that you do somewhere economical, so then you don't feel begrudging, like you need to owe them anything, so they feel begrudging about it. It's like, no, you pay your own way, you do something cheap, so that way there's no overt responsibility, and you do it somewhere public, so where you got safety. For women especially, is have that place so you can choose to meet the person on neutral territory, so to speak, and then you decide if you like them or not. And if you like, if you got a couple of times and you say, this person's growing on me, I like them, then you can go on a romantic date with more trust and more intimacy available.
Yeah, so smart.
Yeah.
And so often I was thinking when this was coming up, and that I think we need to do a whole show on, is so much of what feels like crap is just all that misunderstanding and miscommunication that happens between men and women. I think we can talk a whole show about those things.
Yes.
It's
absolutely
sad. It's sad how completely misunderstood we can both be with the other person, that makes us feel like they're being a crappy person, and it isn't that at all.
It's just a language barrier.
Yes. Yes.
We'll save that for another show.
Don't you think that could just be so rich?
Definitely.
Because I think we've covered a lot of the things that most people think about is the crappy part about dating. And hopefully you're not having a lot of it in a row. That's really the best, that it just pops up now and then. But when it pops up now and then, now you have some tools. And if it's happening all the time, you definitely need to talk to Barry or I.
Indeed.
Because you don't want it to happen all the time.
No.
Just a crappy person now and then pops up. And because if it's a really crappy person, then for sure, then it's crap. But most of the time it's not. It's misunderstandings and us taking it personally and us making it affect us more than it really should.
Right. So if you want some help, how are they going to find us so they can do this, so we can help them?
Such a good segue. Good job, Barry. So the way to get a hold of me is through my website, which is www.theperfectcatch.com, and click on what's holding you back from love. And that will give you a chance to have a complimentary conversation with me where we can figure out if you're having crappy dates over and over and over, and it's feeling like hard, horrible work, we can turn that around. You could also send me a personal email at Christine@theperfectcatch.com. You can also reach me on social media on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and Pinterest and Instagram and YouTube.
There you go. Nicely done.
I got them all this time. And tell them how to reach you too, Barry.
So the same preface, basically, if you want to reach out and get support, you can go to my website, which is barryselby.com. You can click on several buttons on the site got redone, so I'm remembering what the buttons are, but basically there's ways of reaching out and connecting with me and setting up a conversation, which is a complimentary chat between me and you, so we can work things out, figure out where you are, and see if I can help you, because maybe I can, maybe I can't. But the truth is, if you don't reach out, you'll never find out. You can drop me an email directly, barry@barryselby.com, and I'm on. In fact, by the way, at the bottom of my website, there's a little opt-in on my website. You can become part of my email list, so you'll be notified about the things I'm doing, and you get more information and get free gifts like this show. And on social media, you find me. I'm under Barry Selby on most of the platforms, so definitely on YouTube, especially because I have lots of videos on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Twitter, Pinterest. And on Facebook, it's Barry Selby. The author is my business page. And on Instagram, it's The Real Barry Selby. And I'm also on Clubhouse as Barry Selby. So, and Clubhouse is blowing up again. I've gotten some really wonderful guest expert spots in some rooms on Clubhouse, which have been fun. So, but yeah, lots of good stuff.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So we're both here to help you. So reach out to us however you feel, and let's see what we can do to make your life and your dating experience a lot less crap-filled.
Yes, and a lot more fun-filled.
Indeed.
Yes. So we're on every week on Thursday at 1 o'clock Pacific and 4 o'clock Eastern, and we'll look forward to you joining us next week.
Actually, next week, I think it's at CC.
We'll be having a replay.
Replay, yes. But we'll see you in 2 weeks live.
2 weeks live, for sure.
We'll see you then.
Cracking each other up.
Of course.
Bye.